What's going on, guys? We are Prepper School Volume 12 live, and we are talking about some stuff today. Just continuing our series on prepper, being prepared, preparing yourself, getting yourself ready. Guys, it's gotten more and more to not a matter of if, but when, and we're just seeing so many different signs.
Yeah, and when is almost now.
Yeah, when is almost now. Especially if you've been to the grocery store lately.
Woo.
But we're going to talk about a number of things. And the big thing first is guys, it is a red pill or it's a blue pill. You can wake up and take that red pill, or you can stay asleep and take the blue pill. Now you're here on watching this, so obviously, you've already taken the red pill, but yeah. But guys, we have got to, it's not just good enough though to take the red pill. And that's really what this is about. Now, we really appreciate Robbie Wheaton for being here today with us, and from wheatonarms.com. Also YouTube channel, got a lot getting ready to come on for Robbie's YouTube channel. And so we're pretty excited about that.
I tell you, we've been working really, really hard with the new YouTube channel with a lot of reviews and stuff that we're doing. And then some stuff as well that we can't put on YouTube that we're putting over on our Patreon channel, a lot of our builder series. So we just finished up the AR-15 upper and lower builder series that I'm telling you, if you take a 10-year-old, set them down and let them watch this video, they can completely assemble an AR-15 based off of the instructions in this video.
Now, Robbie was a gunsmith for over 20 years, so this isn't just that's not like me putting together an AR.
No, this is what I do for a living all day, every day. It's my wheelhouse. So, Don he's got his wheelhouse with things that he does and does really well. But, the gun thing, that's my wheelhouse, and that's what I've done pretty much my entire life. And so it's really been great for me to take that opportunity and take a lot of the knowledge that I have and be able to actually put it down on video and be able to share it with people. So, we finished up the AR series. We've done the Brownells BRN 180, did the complete build on one of those. And we're getting ready to start the Remington 700 precision rifle series that will walk you through the entire process of building a Remington 700 precision rifle at home. With just hand tools, no kind of specialty tools, no mills, no lathes, no nothing. You can build it at home with just hand tools. So, and it'll be a easy minute of angle rifle. So we're working on that series now. We should have that one up in the next week or week and a half, and that's on our Patreon channel.
Yeah, so there's a lot of great things coming up, and that is coming up though, because you hadn't really gotten that. You've got videos out, but have you actually started new stuff? Okay,
the Patreon channel it's up. It has the AR-15 builder series is up. The BRN 180 series is up. And we're finishing the 700 series in the next week or so, and we'll have that one up.
So y'all need to check it out. And again, gunsmith for over 20 years and really knows what he's doing.
And Patreon is just search for Robbie Wheaton under Patreon. And YouTube is Robbie Wheaton on YouTube as well. So try and make it easy for you guys. Recognize the face, recognize the name.
Yeah, and I don't think we have your link to your YouTube channel down in the description, but we'll put that down there. And we also thank Sarah Mack for being over monitoring comments. We will be taking some questions in the next few minutes. We'll take a little break, but you can go ahead and start asking your questions now, and she'll make note of it, and then she'll be ready when we're ready. Also, we thank Sportsman's Guide for sponsoring today's live event, and you get $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch. No 00, just Sootch. And it is a great resource. I use it all the time.
That's right. And make sure that you check out their Buyers Club as well. Their Buyers Club, you get additional savings as well as free shipping on a lot of their items. And I'm telling you, with things the way that they are in this world today, to be able to save every penny that you can, it's a priority for all of us. So make sure you check those guys out over at Sportsman's Guide.
And also Scottsdale Mint. Scottsdale Mint they mint coins for over 20 countries in the world. I've known the guys at Scottsdale Mint for over 10 years. They are awesome if you're looking for precious metals. And now's a great time to start thinking about that. That will it'll protect your wealth, not necessarily for an investment, which you can do, but it protects your wealth. We've done videos on that. But okay, now let's get into the meat of things. First off, that red pill, blue pill. But let me say something about the red pill. There's a lot of people that have woken up to seeing things like they are, but one of the big things that's a danger.
Not woke people, but ewoke.
Yeah, ewoke. Yeah. But there is a danger with this. And I was cruising along with my brother-in-law and father-in-law a while back, a couple of months ago. We were on vacation and we were going to the store, and they were just talking about all the different things that are going on. I mean, they knew all the details financially, politically, everything. I mean, they're just world events and just talking about all this stuff. And I just sat back there and listened. And then all of a sudden I just said, so what are you doing about it? And it was like, they just kind of looked dumbfounded. I mean, and I love my brother-in-law and father-in-law. I mean, we're very close, but they just looked dumbfounded. They were like, well, I said, listen, we can talk about this all day long, and you can get on the news and you can watch that narrative that's pointing you into a certain direction. It's a funnel, but until you start doing something about it, talking about it's no good. So it's action versus emotion. Look, we can get all emotional and we can get all fired up. And listen, there's a time for that. And we need to be active politically. We need to know what's going on in the world. There's definitely part of that. But if you're just going on emotions and you're not taking action, it's a waste of time. And all it does is get your blood pressure up. And so you need to make sure that you're not living on emotion, because what that does is when events happen, you have panic. You're making rash decisions. You're indecisive. You can't decide what to do.
You have an emotional response.
Yeah, you just get all freaked out. If you've ever seen it, when someone in some of these movies, and they're always being chased, whether it's the government or criminals, one or the other, and they'll get to a certain point and they're just grabbing stuff, and they're in their safe house and they're trying to find some things, and then you'll see them stop and they'll go, think. Listen, if you prepare ahead of time, let's take an example of John Wick. John Wick finds himself, he's in trouble. They're after him. He just calmly breaks open the hole that keeps all of his guns and all of his self-defense stuff. And then he just pulls it right out because he's prepared ahead of time. And I think it's funny because Keanu Reeves, and we've got two movie references here, but he is just such a cool cucumber. I mean, he is like, okay, this is what needs to be done. And he just does what he needs to do. And so one of the big things you need to do in life, whether it's a catastrophic event or just regular stuff that goes on in your life, is not to panic, but to take action. So being prepared and getting yourself prepared is the first step. The priorities. Now, we've gone over these 1,000 times, but you need to get into your priorities to be prepared. And that is food, water, medical supplies, self-defense. And then the things that go around that, your toilet paper.
That's right.
Those are things that you need to stock up on. And you need to stock up on them now. Now, hopefully, most of you have done that. You've got at least some stuff ahead. Don't panic, though. Just get what you can as you can do it. But if you walk right now into, which I don't shop at Walmart, but if you go to Walmart right now, you'll notice that their freezer section is wiped out. And it's been that way for weeks. There's a number of different reasons. Number one, supply chains are really scarce right now. But number two, they don't have any employees.
Yeah.
I mean, they're having a labor shortage all across the country. So we have been in the U.S., it's been so easy just to go Amazon or Sportsman's Guide, and you got packages just coming to you, man. They're like Christmas every day. You got packages. We're finding out now that those items may or may not be in stock. And the more that it ramps up, and I've talked about this 1,000 times, there's this curve. And it's the curve where everybody's on the blue pill, takes the red pill, and things start going through the roof. If you don't prepare before the curve starts to go up, you're behind the 8 ball. So prepare yourself, get yourself in good shape. But also, you've got to think also long term. So there's a balance there. There's short term, could be a month, could be 3 months, could be a year. That's still short term. When it comes to a lifetime, when we were getting ready for this winter storm that we just had, I was getting all this stuff out. We're getting our preps ready. I'm making sure. One thing it just hit me is okay, I have enough here for maybe 3 or 4 weeks of propane and this and that. What if this was a long-term situation? What if I couldn't get those things? Now, and if you're not careful, again, you get into a panic mode. So you need just to be taking action when you can. That's like for you. I mean, when you're stocking up wood, you got to get that wood up. You got to get it seasoned.
That's right. You got to get it early. If you're keeping firewood for the winter, you've got to start with firewood a year ahead of time. And that way it can cure and it can dry and season, and then you have good wood to burn. Otherwise, you've got a lot of green wood that's really not going to burn very well.
Right.
So you start a year ahead of time, getting all of your wood together, splitting all of it, stacking all of it. And that way, when winter does come, you're prepared.
Right.
So it's just setting you up for success ahead of time.
And you have your shed built.
That's right.
To keep it protected. You do the things you need to do long term. These are things that we use in life. And, we need to be able to use it.
One of the big things that a lot of people don't think about with wood, they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to have got a fireplace in the house. We're going to chop some wood. We're going to put it to the side, and they stack it on the ground. And, when you do that, all of that wood that's on the ground soaks up moisture from the ground, and it rots that wood, and it holds moisture in it. So your bottom layer or bottom 2 layers of wood are ruined. You've got to build a platform and get your wood up off of the ground and elevate it, and something that has airflow up under it to continue to keep that wood on the bottom dry and drying if you've got green wood on the bottom. So you have to elevate your wood and get it up off the ground as well.
Right. So, you just need to think ahead and make sure that you're preparing. Like food. You stock up food. I mean, we've got long-term food, but we also have canned food and things like that. And we have to make sure we rotate through it, because there's nothing worse. We rotated all of our food. We get it from the certain dates first, and we use it, because when we first did it, we went, you know what? We were finding food cans that were like out of date. We were finding supplies that were out of date. And so, just having that organization.
Yeah. First in, first out mentality.
Right. So, the thing is you need to make sure you make plans, and you have to be organized. So listen, guys, this is the big thing. And my buddy Southern Prepper 1 has said this for a long time, and I'm sure he didn't come up with it, but be prepared, not scared. And one of the things that I find is the more that I am prepared, the less that my panic, my fear starts to go down. And so then I'm taking that action, and I'm not leading myself by emotions. Now, unfortunately, you can't think of everything. So the point is okay, yeah, I stocked real heavily on canned beans, but I forgot about my toilet paper. But you know what? Now I can kind of focus on those areas that I'm lacking in. So you want to have a good balance.
Save your can wrappers.
No.
Save your can wrappers.
Save your can wrappers.
Toilet paper.
Yeah, too bad they don't have the old Sears and Roebuck catalogs like they used to have. But But also think about it like this. No matter what happens, I mean, even if you haven't prepared as well as you should, or things just run out, is people have lived for generations without all the conveniences and the things that we have now. So don't think that it's the end of the road just because, your chainsaw's not working. I mean, you have to figure out other ways. And that is one of the biggest things, is to improvise to survive. Listen, in our economy right now, with the shortages that we're seeing, sometimes you cannot, I don't care how much money you have, you can't buy it. Vehicles, for instance, we just bought a new vehicle. My wife did, and it wasn't new. We don't buy new vehicles, but it was a nice vehicle. It took us forever to find what we were looking for, because there's just all these shortages. And I'll tell you, it's funny. We're talking about labor shortages. Went to a KFC yesterday, pulled in, sign on the door, closed. The dining room. And I hardly ever eat at KFC, but I like it. When I want it, I want KFC. And so, but the drive-through was open. It says, due to labor shortages, the dining room's closed. So we get in line, we get into the drive-through. We get up there. The guy that's up there, he's on there, and he goes, hold on a minute. We're kind of short today. We only have 2 employees.
Wow.
2. I was like, wow. We went through the line. It was actually pretty quick. We did have to wait just a couple of minutes. But when I went up, though, to pay, I gave him my credit card and a bank card, and he ran it. When he came back to the table, it was this really nice black guy, and it was a black girl in the back. And when he handed me my credit card, I gave him a $20 bill. And I said, thank you for working. Thank you for coming in today.
Yeah.
And I said, would you split that with the girl in the back? I'm telling you, it just made his day. I mean, he was like, thank you. Thank you so much. We need people out there. So be kind to your servers because they are under a lot of stress right now. I mean, they're and people aren't showing up. So, make sure that you show gratitude, because I'm going to tell you guys, if you are a giving person and you help people and you do for people, it will come back to you. It will come back to you. Okay. So making plans. Now, one of the big things about the military, and Robbie was in the Marines, he understands this. You make a plan A, but you don't stop there.
No.
You make contingency plans.
Always contingency. You got your plan A, you got your plan A, you've got your plan B, you've got your plan C. And if you need to go further, you can continue going further out from there. And basically what it is you're taking plan A is I've got everything that I need for any kind of situation, down here on the bottom, and then it tapers up. Plan B is here, plan C is here, plan D is up here. And by the time you get to E or F, you've only got one or two things that you're working with, but you're still working with it, and you're making a go at it and being successful with it.
Right. And because you've made those plans, when something unknown comes, you're in better shape to deal with it.
That's right.
But if you only make that one plan, when things go wrong, then you're like, well, So, yeah. And it's one of the things about the whole prepping community, especially back in the 80s and 90s, they kind of had this one set mentality. This is what's going to happen. I'm planning everything for that. But it's just like COVID, when COVID hit. I mean, who would have thought, number one? Number two, it wasn't SHTF situation, but it wasn't like we thought.
Well, you're exactly right. In the late 70s, early 80s, it was the Russians and the threat of nuclear war. So that was what everyone was preparing for, was the potential for nuclear war. There were companies that were making these fallout shelters that they bury in your backyard. And, it's everything about preparing for nuclear war. And nuclear war is something that in the last 20 years, 30 years is really been in the back of most people's minds, because the governments have really worked together to minimize that threat worldwide. Here lately, it is something that has started coming back up again. And, a lot of people are starting to talk about it again. And it's one of those things that, the people that really pay attention to what's going on, that have taken the red pill, they see these things that are going on, and they're like, well, maybe, if I've got the money, maybe I do need to put a fallout shelter in my backyard just in case. And so we're coming full circle again back to where we were in the late 70s and early 80s, with people preparing for things that are completely different than what we were looking at and preparing for a year and a half, 2-3 years ago.
But if you're not even prepared with your food and water already, how are you going to be prepared for anything else?
That's right.
And so it's a building block. But the big thing again, guys, is don't get all freaked out and emotional. Just get to the task at hand. I think it was Jocko on the Jocko podcast, Jocko Willnick.
I love his podcast.
Oh my gosh,
that is one of my favorites.
Brilliant. One of the things he says is that when something hits you, when you got a problem facing you, you just go ahead and deal with it. You deal with it and you take care of it. And a lot of times, and I can be guilty of this, something come up and I'll go, oh, I need to deal with that, but I'll deal with that later, and then later and later and later, dealing with it now. That's again, action, taking action, not reaction, not backing up, not indecision.
Well, and you want to talk about something that will drive your stress level through the roof, is having something right there in your face that you have to deal with that you put off. And then you go to bed and you get up the next morning, and that's the first thing that you're thinking about, is that problem or that issue or whatever it is that's right there in your face that you have to deal with. And the more you put it off, the more stress it builds on you, the more you're like, oh God, I got to take care of this. I got to do this. And you put it off because maybe it's something hard. Maybe it's something that you really don't want to deal with, and you continue to put it off, and it continues piling stress on you. Once you deal with it and you fix that issue and put that problem behind you, you're like, that wasn't that bad. Why didn't I just go ahead and deal with it to begin with?
Right.
But that's a lot of our mindset is, something's hard, I'm going to push it to the side and I'll deal with it later, instead of addressing it head on and taking care of it right then and putting it behind you.
One of the things that a buddy of mine said years ago, he said, there's nothing worse than the feeling of having to go out and cut the grass. Now, some people really enjoy that. I mean, we have a 0-turn mower, so I don't mind it.
Yep.
But, there's nothing worse than going out and have to cut the grass. But there's not a better feeling than when you've cut your grass.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's one of those things where you dread it. But when you do it, it's like, oh, thank God I got that done. Okay, let's, if we have some questions, we'll go ahead and take a few. We have quite a bit more to talk about, but we want to get you guys involved. And that's the purpose of live.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a great time to get some questions.
Kevin Walker asks,
Hey,
I
Kevin.
have heard that food shortages are going to get worse, not better. What is your opinion?
Totally agree.
Yep.
Totally, completely agree. We're seeing it. And then too, with this big trucker, situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then the U.S. is even talking about doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But we're just not able to get the goods. And there are other extenuating circumstances. There's a locust plague that's going on, or grasshopper plague out in the Midwest. There is shortages of water in some of the most fertile farmlands
Mm-hmm.
in California and some areas in the West that they're going to probably have to start rationing water, which is also going to hurt us.
And that's the thing. It's not just concentrated to one area like the South or the North or the Midwest or the West. This problem it's nationwide within our country and outside the borders of our country as well. Other countries are experiencing the same thing. So it's not something that is isolated. It is a widespread event. So yes, I agree completely that we're going to see continued food shortages getting worse and worse.
And one of the things about food shortages, it's not always the food itself.
Mm-hmm.
It can be the packaging. It
Right.
can be the containers. It can be the shipping. It's a domino effect.
Yeah.
Have a great day. Asks, is there any danger in storing cases of butane for my camping stove in my condo? This is the one who is in Florida. And she also asked, should I be worried about them venting?
I think as long as you keep them in a cool, dark, dry place,
Yep.
That helps as well. But yeah, those propane or the butane canisters, I've had some for years.
Yeah, they're very stable.
They're very stable. So is propane. Propane is very stable.
Yeah. And I would go a little further and even say that as long as it's not out in direct sunlight, you shouldn't have any kind of issues with the can overheating and venting.
Yeah.
Iberian Link Survival asks, don't you agree that if Russia attacks Ukraine, we'll all take a bite on the red pill sandwich?
Yeah, I think we'll be back into that nuclear
Late
age.
70s, early 80s. Yep.
We'll be back to that. Which we have a video coming out about nuclear fallout. And honestly, to survive it, if you know what to do, it's very doable. It's very, very doable.
That's right.
But yeah, we're gonna be talking about that. It's been one of those things that's been kind of like on the radar, but we haven't been able to get it finished.
Yeah, one of the big things with nuclear is if you survive the initial blast and then you survive the initial wave of radiation, you've got a really good chance of survival.
Well, and then getting into a place, even with the initial rate, if you can get to a spot, especially underground.
That's right. Yeah, and that's some of the things we'll be talking about in that upcoming video. But that's the blast. If you're caught in the blast zone, you're just out of luck. I mean, that's just all there is to it. You're just going to be a shadow on the ground. But the radiation side of it is very, very survivable.
John Pander asks, we just got a Berkey and love it. Water is so much better using it. Mm-hmm. How many backup filters should we get at a minimum?
Well, each one is 3,000 gallons of water. We have the Imperial. It has like 4 filters. We have the original big Berkey, which has only had 2, but it would still filter 6,000 gallons of water. It's funny because I know one of the guy, in fact, the Berkey guy, if you ever buy, and if you guys who've not owned Berkeys, I'm telling you guys, it is a huge peace of mind because you can only live 3 days without water and you can store up a ton of water, but it's really good. And 2, I agree with you. I can't even drink tap water, cannot drink it because Berkey spoiled me. But I would, 12,000 gallons of water, that's a lot of water.
It is, especially when you start doing the math on it. You've got a gallon of water per person per day. So if you've got 4 people in your house, that's 4 gallons per day times 365. And that's going to give you how many gallons of water you need for everyone to survive for 1 year. And then you can multiply that out to kind of get an idea of how many extra filters you want to try and keep on hand for long term.
Right.
It's like 1,460 gallons a year.
1,460 a year for 4 people. So, a 12,000 gallon Berkey is going to last you a couple of days.
Now that's that is if, and then of course with the 2 filters, I would recommend at least having at least 2 backup filters, if not 4. I mean, it's not going to hurt.
And too, if you're filtering tap water, that's one thing. Tap water is pretty easy on the filters, and it doesn't clog the filters up. If you're having to use like creek water or runoff water or rainwater or something like that to filter, you're probably going to have some sediment and stuff in there, and your filters aren't going to last quite as long because they're going to clog up quicker.
Right.
So that's something to consider as well, is where your water source or alternative water source is coming from.
Yeah, the one thing we noticed, because we did run our big Berkey, we had to replace the filters in it, and it was a 6,000 gallon capacity. But we would clean them. We'd just clean them, every once in a while. And then all of a sudden, it just got to the point where you'd turn it on the water and it was like just a trickle.
Yep.
So that's when it's time to go ahead and move on.
Nigel asked, can't Berkey filters be reused? I think you kind of answered that. Taylor Wilmoth asked, does Berkey filters have a radiation treatment filter?
They do. It's a special deal. There are a number of different filters out there. I think Indoor also makes them. That do a radiation filter. And even if you need to get something separate that will filter that radiation out, use your Berkey, but then you can use the different filters. But, it's, in fact, I've got one somewhere, but I need to get back into that because, I want to make sure, especially with the Ukraine-Russia kind of deal, and then, of course, China is kind of stepping it up on the Pacific side. And, of course, North Korea is shooting off missiles into the water, but it's still a potential. And then you've got Iran and some of these other rogue nations that could do something, a terrorist act. So stay positive, though. You got to keep your action going. That's why you can't get emotional. You can't get all bogged down. You got to you got to take action. Listen, if you're concerned about radiation, there's a ton of information online. Start studying, and that's coming up in a minute.
Georgia Steinberg asked, what is the best knife for a woman?
The same knife a man would carry.
Yeah, same knife.
EDC, you've got your folders that you carry in your pocket or your pocketbook every day. For something more durable, you want a thick fixed blade knife that you can baton with.
Full tang. The metal, that means the metal goes not just the blade, but it goes all the way through
the handle.
It's very
and everything.
strong.
Yep.
You can. Now, some of the best knives, just for me personally, that are commercial type knives, are the Essie knives. Love Essie, and they make different sizes. They make them all the way from the little Azula, and then they make the Essie 4, 5, 6. 6 gets huge, but having a good fixed blade knife, even a Glock field knife, is a good knife. It's lightweight. It'd be a great knife to have. Those are very strong.
And I tell you, when it comes to knives, my Amazon store, I've got a ton of options of knives for fixed blades as well as folders on my Amazon store. And if you just search Wheaton Arms for Amazon,
or you can go to your YouTube channel, you should have the links down.
Yep, my YouTube channel will be the links, and my Patreon and or my Facebook and Instagram. I can't even talk today. Wow.
You can also go to Sportsman's Guide. They have a huge collection of knives or array of knives, and you get the $20 off. On that, so that also helps.
FB Drivers Training Network asked, with today's reliance on GPS, what are good sources to learn to read an atlas to plan exit routes?
Yeah, maps. I am big on those. They are harder to get than ever. You typically need to go to a trucking company or a truck stop. And when I say truck stop, there's these big gas stations that have trucks there. They'll typically have maps. But also learn how to read a compass, and sometimes it's just great to have a map and to use that instead of your GPS. Because one problem with GPS is I put my coordinates in and then I don't even pay attention. I just turn here, turn there, go here. And then I get there and then I'm going, I don't know how I got there. It's a good thing I got GPS. So,
I tell you, one of the big problems with maps, and my neighbor actually owns a company that produces maps.
Oh.
And so we were talking about it not long ago, and he was telling me that the biggest problem that they're having right now with their map production is actually getting the paper that they print the maps on. They use a special paper for printing the maps that's water resistant and stuff. And that paper that they use is very difficult for them to get right now.
Wow.
Which is one of the big reasons why you're seeing a shortage in maps.
But get maps of your local area, get maps of the East, or we're in the East Coast, but get your maps of the larger areas. And of course, with an atlas, you can go through. But the one thing about the more localized maps is the roads are a little bit more detailed. So
And generally, your localized maps are going to be more updated with road changes and additions and stuff. They'll be a little more updated than some of your atlases that could go back, 4 or 5, 10 years old.
Right. Okay. One more question, and we'll take more questions in a minute.
Okay. Survival Savage asks, hey guys, do you think dogs are good prep right now?
Oh, dogs are awesome. They're great for security. They're great for security. They're just great. And they're great for morale, and they help to keep you calm. The one thing you need to make sure is you have food to take care of your dogs.
I was just going to say, that's one thing that we've been seeing a big shortage on lately has been pet food.
Great.
And if you're gonna have a pet, just like with your preps, you may want to start looking at having some extra preps for your animal as well.
Right. Okay. Now we've talked about Improvise to Survive was our last thing. We're going into financial diversity. Had a call from a buddy of mine. Well, actually, I just met him. I knew his wife, and she said he wants to call you and talk to you about some stuff. And so we got on the phone, and he was asking some questions about finances. And I said, number one, I'm not a financial guy. So for you guys, I'm not a financial planner. I'm not an expert. I'm not an accountant. I'm not giving you expert advice. But what I am going to say is that there's a lot of people out there with money, retirement funds in the bank. They have 401ks. They have a lot of different things that keep them going. Mm-hmm. But let me just say this: with the market and with the inflation, they can be in danger. You may want to contact your financial planner. One thing that we have, our financial planner is a solid. They're conservatives. They're gun owners. They're and they see what's going on as well, so they can help you. Because here's the thing about money, just like with the stock market crash back in the 1920s. A lot of people made a lot of money during that time, mm-hmm. a lot of money. It's just that you have to have it in the right areas. And so one thing I'll say is don't hesitate. Get in touch with your financial people. Find out what you can do to help protect the wealth that you have, especially if you're counting on that as your income and you're retired. So I'm going to leave that for you to do that. I'm not going to tell you what you need to do, because this guy was asking me about his Roth IRA. Thank you, IRA, mm-hmm. and what he should do, blah, blah. And I said, number one, you pull that money out, there's a lot of tax liability on that. I said, you're going to lose a lot of it. Just like you guys with your 401ks, you want to cash them in, you're going to have a huge tax debt on that pay before you even get your money. So, that is one thing you got to watch. That's going to be even worse than inflation. But so that's your deal. That's your call. But the other thing that you can do is invest in other things. And one thing that a lot of people do is durable goods. One thing I saw Glenn Beck talk about, he said, my father always said to watch what the rich are doing. And if they're like buying certain things, you need to start thinking about that. If they're doing something with their money, you need to think about that. So, one thing that's getting harder and harder to get are durable goods, mm-hmm. and getting things that have value and retain value.
Tangible assets.
Guns are a big one. They always retain their value. And in fact, they rise in value. And so that's one thing you can trade, barter with. You can sell, mm-hmm. if you need to pay a house payment, those kind of things. But precious metals are a great way to protect your wealth. And it's not necessarily an investment, which you can go into that. But I've been big about precious metals, silver, gold, and you put it aside, and then it protects your wealth. And that's all traditionally on up. And when you have a financial crisis, it'll go way up, mm-hmm. in value. So you're able to take the money right now that when you go out to buy a can of beans, and last year it was $1, now it's $2, you just lost $1 of your income. But if you took some money and you put it into some precious metals, and then you can take those precious metals, sell them, and be able to buy what you need, and you can still retain and keep your wealth.
Yeah. Try $3.
No kidding.
My wife was going to make chili the other night, and I went to the grocery store to get some chili beans and stuff. And because we eat beans in our chili, we're odd.
I love chili and beans.
So she goes to get some beans, and they were $3 a can.
Holy crap!
A year ago they were 70 cents a can. They're $3 a can for beans.
That just means that your dollar's worth less. That's all right. It means. So financial diversity, durable goods, precious metals, or take your money and put it into real estate, whatever. I mean, again, I'm not trying to tell you how to do it, but you need to start considering it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is, if you take action now, then you're not going to be panicked when all of a sudden the banks close. Have cash on hand, have some cash on hand. But now inflation eats that cash up.
It does.
So, you don't want to have like a mass amount, but you want to have some cash on hand, especially if ATMs or banks close, because that's happened all over the world a number of times.
We saw it in Greece just a few years ago.
It's happening in Argentina again right now. So, those kind of economic meltdowns. All right. Crime. Crime is something that is skyrocketing hundreds of % over. Murder, assault, robberies, smash and grabs. If you have a business and you have valuable items, you are vulnerable to smash and grabs.
Well, in some states like California, they're not even prosecuting people anymore, or they're just giving them a citation for stealing less than $950 worth of goods.
Yeah. They're bringing, a lot of people are bringing it on themselves. Yep. Let me say this, though, before we get into the rest of this crime. There are things that you just can't do. You can't help. Increasing crime, you can't help it. It's just going to happen. It's your action and your reaction to it that are vital.
Absolutely.
First, number one rule with crime and self-defense, number one, is situational awareness. Avoid the situation if possible. And if you're aware and you're looking and you're alert and you're thinking, okay, here I am out in public. What are some potential things that can happen? This isn't paranoia. This is just being
realistic.
You're in code yellow. You're not in code white,
That's
which
right.
You're just oblivious and you're on your phone. You're sitting over there texting or you talk. You're aware of what's going on. When you're walking through a parking lot, you see people that may be, a little nefarious or just even if they're not, because a lot of times they can look just normal.
Listen, here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with profiling people. You go into a restaurant, you sit down in a restaurant and you look around the restaurant and you're looking for, ingress and egress, entrance and exits. You're looking where you can get in, where you can get out. You're looking at where bad guys can come in, where bad guys can go out. And then you're looking at the people in the restaurant and you make a mental profile of the people. That guy over there is, if something goes down, that guy over there is probably going to be, one that's going to stand up and help out. Or those people over there are probably going to be in my way if I need to get to the door. So, but you need to profile people, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with profiling people to help you create situational awareness of what's going on where you are.
Yeah, it hasn't nothing to do with race. No. It doesn't have anything else. It's just about just knowing that because all people have bad elements in their groups, but and it's funny because most people are good, but there are those that aren't. So first off, situational awareness, knowing your area. Again, like Robbie said, knowing how to get in and out, knowing where your exits are, knowing that if I need to go through the back door, I'm sitting there in church, sitting there, and I'm going, okay, there's an exit there. There's an exit there. I came through the door back here. There's this, there's that. I mean, I'm analyzing that because I have my family there. And so number two is good communication skills. So when I say that, if you get into a situation, you need to be good about talking your way out of it, if possible. And the one thing that goes against is your ego. Listen, somebody comes in and starts doing whatever, and I want to get up, and I want to fight, and are you kidding me? Get out. Don't let your ego take over. Just let it go. Step aside. Do what you need to do. Now, if obviously, I'm one that takes action. Unfortunately, I know over the years myself being in certain situations, it's not about ego, but if I have a spot where I can take charge or do something and diffuse a situation, I will. But sometimes with my family, it's time to get out. It's time to back that ego down. I hate bullies more than anything, always have. And the only fights I've ever gotten into, which I've had a few of them, is because of bullies. But you know what? Sometimes you got to just step back. But, one thing I can't stand is somebody else being threatened and harassed and stuff like that. But you need to be smart about it. But you need to have those communication skills in place. And you need to be able to use them. But then Next is escape. Get the crap out of there. Don't wait around. If something starts to go down, don't go around and look and see what's going on here. We got something here. It's like, say, what the heck? Get the heck out.
It's like the people on the interstate when there's an accident. Yeah, the rubberneckers.
Yeah,
slow down 10 miles an hour, and they're just
they just can't look away.
All the way past. No, it's like the old saying. It's like a train wreck. You can't look away. You know, sometimes you got to look away. You got to look away, and you've got to get out of a situation. And that's where knowing where your exits are, knowing where your escape routes are, knowing how to get out of a store, knowing how to get out of a parking lot, or how to get out of traffic. Always have a plan. You know, having that plan is going to prevent your emotional response, and it's going to allow you to make a rational response in almost any situation.
And that, in fact, with Robbie bringing up road rage, that is a big one. And it's gotten more and more prevalent. People are just angry, and they just, for no reason. I pulled out the other day, and I had plenty of room. And I pull out, and this guy just gets right up on my bumper. And he's just like, riding right up on my bumper.
It was me.
Yeah. I did have a buddy of mine do that to me one time. He was just playing around with me. But, but letting that ego go. Guys, now here's the problem. If you're in a road rage, and I've brought this up a number of times, you need to be thinking about this. If you have been offended by somebody pulling out in front of you, they turn too slow, they cut you off, whatever. If you escalate, if you pull up beside them and start yelling and you're shooting them a bird or you're doing whatever, you have just complicated your right for self-defense.
Yep.
You've complicated it. What happens is in a court of law, let's say it goes to a lethal situation. Let's say you shoot them a bird and you're screaming at them and everything, and you drive on and they start following you, and then you pull over and they have a gun. You escalated that situation. Don't escalate.
Yep.
Let it go. It's not worth it. You know what? The guy pulled out in front of me. He cut me off. You know what? I'm not going to teach him a lesson.
That's right.
I have had struggles with that in the past. But when I read my gun laws and self-defense laws in our state, I realized that you're setting yourself up for trouble. And so the best thing to do is think about this. When that car pulls in front of you and you escalate that, how is a jury going to look at that? How is a judge going to look at that?
It goes right back to situational awareness and being able to escape or avoid a situation. And if something like that happens, just get on the brakes and you just slow down. Let them go on. Let them go on. They're going to take that anger and that rage that they have right on down the road to the next car. Just stay away from them. Back up, get away from them, let them go on. It's the easiest thing you can do.
Because it's difficult. It's not.
A lot of times it's counterintuitive to what you want to do, but it's the right and prudent thing to do for yourself.
That's right. And it's one of the problems that we have here in this country is that people are getting out of hand and they get very offended very easily. And so we need to be the people that let that go.
Well, here's the thing. If we react to it, then we're having an emotional response to that situation instead of a calm and predictable and well thought out response to that situation. And that's the really big thing that kind of goes along with everything that we've been talking about today. And road rage is a prime example that just about everybody watching can identify with. That is having an emotional response to a specific situation that's happening to you right then and there. And that's where we've got to make sure that if we're prepared, we see that guy coming and pulls out in front of us, and we have enough time to slow down and avoid a potential accident and the ability to be able to escape a dangerous situation without having an emotional response because we were prepared for that situation.
That's right. Okay. Now, this is one that's a little bit tricky. Let's talk about firearm laws, changes in firearm laws. We're looking at some things right now, not necessarily an assault weapons ban, but a lot of things with the pistol braces, with possible, these triggers, force reset triggers, and some other stuff where the ATF is coming in. And listen, we need to fight that in court. You need to be a member of a gun rights advocate groups. There's a number out there that are standing for gun rights, and we need to support them, and we need to support them financially, but also we need to make sure our congressmen and senators and all that know. You may live in a state that's already pretty restricted. You may live in Europe, which you have no self-defense options that way, or wherever in the world, because people have watched this from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that we do here in the U.S. is we get really fired up and we're going to do what we're going to do. And listen, I'm right there with you. But on the other hand, you need to make contingent. Don't let emotions take you out. I love pistol braces, love them. But just recently, we were building some ARs for the kids. I was building them. And instead of building pistols, I went ahead and built them rifles.
Yep.
Not because I'm not going to keep my pistols, but I just thought this way, it's still a rifle. It's great. It's got a 16-inch barrel. It's compact. It's perfect. We're going to build that for right now. But here's the thing. Just like when the original assault weapons ban happened, everybody panicked, freaked out, and for understandable. It makes me angry to even think about it, limiting your magazine capacity. Yeah. But let's take it and move it over a little bit. Practicality in the world, if it turns into law, you've got to deal with that. You've got to say, okay, if I'm not getting rid of my pistol brace and all that, okay, and I'm with you. But here's the thing. If somebody comes in, you have a home invasion, and you grab that pistol and you use it then just to defend you and your family, then you have limited your ability to get off without a lot of trouble. So the best thing is to think about it and be prudent and understand that if I do ever have to use that, I want to make sure I'm not using one of those force reset triggers in my home against attackers if it becomes law, just like your bump stocks, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. We need to fight to retain that. We need to fight for that right. And I'm not telling you need to get rid of it, but what I am saying is you need to think those things through and not get emotionally bound to it. But we need to fight for it. Self-defense laws, a lot of self-defense laws can change. Here in South Carolina, we have the Castle Doctrine. We have Stand Your Ground. I mean, it's a good self-defense state. But, some states, you guys don't have that same thing, which is really a shame. But you need to work around it. One thing, I made a video one time about the coming assault weapons ban, and I said, here are some other options. And I got crucified for it. I mean, I did. Lever action rifles are great. Pump action rifles. I mean, there's a lot of choices out there. If you live in a state that, or if laws pass, here's some things for you to think about that will at least keep you effective in self-defense.
That's right. Yep. And that's one of the big things. You want to be able to protect yourself, and we're going to be able to protect ourselves. If the laws change that make certain firearms that we own illegal, we want to make sure that we have a legal firearm to be able to protect ourselves with.
Right. Exactly. And prepare ourselves for it. Also, guys, let me just say, when we had this first, and everybody was in a huge panic and everybody was freaking out, there was a part of me that hated it, which I do because I buy ammo on a regular basis, even though Fiocchi supplies our ammo. There are always ammunitions. In fact, Fiocchi, there was a number of different calibers that I couldn't get this year that I needed. I had to go out and spend like 5 times what I did a couple of years ago.
I know.
But going ahead, thinking ahead of time, and if ammo prices, and they are starting to come down, when they get to a reasonable level, stock up. Don't, because it'll happen again. It will happen again. It's happened 8 times since the assault weapons ban.
Yep.
8 times we've had ammo shortages and prices going up. Get your ammo and invest in it. You're taking action, and then you're not finding yourself going to a gun show and looking at a box of ammunition for $80 that you could have bought for $18 last year.
Yep. Well, and here's the thing with certain branches, certain groups in the government really starting to ramp up assault weapons bans and really trying to ban stuff again. What you're going to see is people starting to buy up all the ammunition that's on the shelves as it's starting to come back available again. Get ahead of that early. Prices are coming down now. While prices are down some, while ammunition is available, this is a great time to start stocking up on ammo. And I saw yesterday where Palmetto State Armory, which owns Advanced Armament, has now released their 9mm ammunition. They got their ammunition plant up and going, and they're actually producing ammo now. And the prices on it was really, really good yesterday. So if you if you want to check that out, look at Palmetto State Armory and look at their advanced armament line of ammunition.
Okay, let's go to some more questions. We'll go to some more questions. We got 10 minutes. We have a couple of things we're going to wrap up with, but we do have some questions.
Jason asks, considering getting my ham license, however, there are channels you can use with no license requirements. Do you recommend getting certified, or is that not necessary?
I highly recommend getting certified, mainly because you learn about ham. It's not, simple to use. It's something that really helps. And yes, there are channels that you can use with your radios. In an emergency situation, you're allowed to use it. But if you don't know how to use it, it's not going to do you a heck of a lot of good.
Mm-hmm.
So going and getting into the, getting your technical and getting that or getting your basic ham license. Yes, I highly agree. I highly recommend getting that basis. It'll give you a lot of information that's vital. It's like self-defense, going and getting your concealed carry permit. You go to the class and they're telling you things. You're going, okay, good, that you might not have known otherwise. So, yes, I highly recommend doing that and recommending getting your ham license.
Well, and the class just shortens the learning curve so much, because you get a lot of hands-on practical application with it and learn how to use the equipment, how to set it up properly and adjust it, that it's going to take you a lot longer to figure out on your own than it would just sitting through a class.
Well, even radio waves, and there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff in it,
yeah.
and it's not a very easy thing at first. You have to really, but you know what? You're challenging yourself. You're taking action.
Taylor Wilmuth asks, do you think we are going to end up like Argentina in a year or two?
It's possible. And if you've never read the modern economic, the modern survival guide for the coming economic collapse, for Fowl wrote it about the 2001 economic collapse in Argentina, which has happened again. And I think it's on its third leg.
Mm-hmm.
Argentina was a very advanced culture, very strong economy, one of the strongest in the world. They produced more food than any other Latin American country. They were exporting food. There were a lot of people making wealth there. And the government came in and did a bunch of dumb stuff. And the next thing you know, their economy's collapsing. That is happening here. There's a lot of parallels. I highly recommend reading that book. If you want to find it, all you got to do is put FERFAL for Fowl in Google, and you will find his book. It is one of my top books, which, by the way, and I'll get to that in a second.
FB Drivers Training Network says, off topic because I missed last live feed, but was wanting to know if you plan on doing a review of a field jacket liner or the hoodie Wooby.
Yeah, the Wooby. Yeah, the what's inside your field jacket and the older military field jackets is the same material that they used in the Woobies. I don't know that I'm going to necessarily do a whole review on it, but I might, because a lot of people really like the Wooby video. But those are at Sportsman's Guide, by the way, $20 off. Sootch discount.
So I have two similar questions. Jason asks, I'm investing in more silver lately. What is your take on silver? Any other metals you recommend other than silver or gold? And John G also asks, do you prefer gold or silver, or how about platinum?
What I love about silver is that I can take a dime and I can go and buy something like a shovel if I need to, because of the value. But what I don't like, and two, it's known. I like junk silver particularly, but I do buy bullion silver as well. But I can take different denominations. So if I need to barter or trade or spend it, I don't overspend.
Mm-hmm.
If I took a gold coin, an ounce or a half ounce coin, it's worth about $1,700, and then I need to trade for something. If I'm that desperate, I may have to trade for it. So I like to have my silver. I like gold because it's less weight. You take that ounce of gold, which is about $22 to $30 an ounce. It kind of fluctuates. It's fluctuating a lot right now. $22 an ounce for an ounce. You take an ounce of gold, it's $1,700 or $1,800 an ounce. So my wealth is more portable in gold. So I like to have both. As far as other precious metals, platinum is definitely something that, I think gold has now surpassed platinum. But when I was buying gold originally, it was $350 an ounce. And that's been about 20 years ago. So guys, the values of precious metals go up and up. But also I highly recommend investing in lead, and brass and steel. Those are the metals: lead, brass, and steel. Gold and silver.
Have a great day mentions, I'm having the Ring doorbell put in Friday. Not sure if I should have that or not.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Now, it'll drive you crazy if you have a lot of people going by, and you can set I have 3. Robbie has them.
Yep.
It's wonderful because not only can somebody goes to my shop and just walks by, it alerts me, which is it just did. I can feel it. It'll do a ring, and I can look live on the camera, and I can even talk to them.
Yep.
Which Robbie had to do that with a criminal going to his mother's house trying to break in.
Yep.
You can, and it gets a record of them. Yes. And 2, if somebody comes to your door, you can look at them and decide if you want to answer it or not, or you can speak to them. But I highly recommend the Ring system. I mean, there are other systems out there, but that's just the one that Robbie loved, and so I ended up getting it.
Yeah, I've had great results with it. You know, it syncs up with your Wi-Fi. Super easy to use. You can use. They've got battery operated ones, and then they have hardwired ones as well. We've got both. The batteries last about 60 days before you have to recharge it. So we've got some extra batteries. So if one goes dead, you know, we just pop it out and stick a new battery in it and put the other one back on the charger.
It's easy to change.
Super easy to change. That's the Ring doorbell system is one of the most highly recommended items that I can offer for your house. I mean, they are tremendous.
And they have other systems too that that piggyback onto that. So you can even get cameras and things like that.
Mary Quite asks, in your opinion, what is the best armor for a little old lady? Grandma asking.
Armor. If you're looking for body armor, I guess, plates, steel plates can be heavy, but they can take a lot of rounds and still be usable. Ceramic plates. There are some new type plates that have come out, polymer plates and things that are fairly lightweight. If you want to in a good little carrier to put it in. But that's typically, like if you're living in an urban situation, you're probably looking at more of a handgun. I mean, and so you can get the soft plates.
Yep.
They weigh less, but but I'm not sure I understand the question.
I'll tell you did a review a couple of years ago on it's like a tote, a duffel or backpack or something that you could unzip and some 3A plates would flop out of it that you could use as a shield. They were really popular a few years ago when we had some of these school shootings for parents buying for their kids to put in their backpacks for school. But something like that would be something that I would recommend for you, to where you've got a defensive barrier in between you that could provide you quite a bit of protection.
Yeah, you can even like you said, you can get the panels and you can put it in a pack, a backpack, or whatever.
I think she meant gun, actually.
Yeah.
One thing I would be careful of is you need to go and make sure that the trigger, you can pull the trigger. If for a little old lady, and I say that because you said that, I would recommend the Smith & Wesson Shield EZ.
Yep.
380 ACP
or 9mm.
And now they have the new 30 caliber, the new 30 super defense caliber. But it's really easy to rack the slide. The controls are very simple. They shoot really well.
Yep.
So the Smith & Wesson EZ in 380 would be a light recoil. Your 9mm would be a little bit more effective. So those are the two. Also the SIG P238. P238. My mother had arthritis in her hands, and when she went to look for a gun, the first thing she wanted was a revolver, and she couldn't even pull the trigger back.
Yep.
So she ended up getting one of the SIG P238s in 380, and it's a real easy way to rack. The slide's really loose. I mean, it's not loose, but it's really easy to pull back.
It's got a light recoil spring in it, so it makes the slide easy to rack. And I agree with you 100%. Both of those would be my recommendation as well.
Yeah.
Chris Baker asked, if you have an alarm system already but just want cameras, should you still get the Ring?
Absolutely.
Sure. Listen, we've got a security system that is reactive, and of course checks our doors and everything. And then we have a camera system over that, and then we have the Ring. And the one thing about the Ring is we have on the front and back door of the house. And then at my shop, which is it's a good distance off, I've got a Ring there. so I can keep track of whatever. And you can sync 2 or 3. We have 3 rings together on one network, so I can look and check the back door, front door, or my shop.
Yeah, you can sync a lot more than that because you can set up different areas. So like I have a couple of different houses on my one ring system. So I just click on one and it pulls it up, and all of my cameras at that one. I click on the other one, it pulls it up, all my cameras on that one. And then you can scroll through and click on individual cameras and open up individual cameras as well.
And you can use those for the police. You can turn those in to police and things like that. Okay, we're out of time, but I do want to talk about a couple of last things. Number one is a library. You need to make sure that you have books. Because one of the things about books is that they're right there in your hand. They're physical books. Kindles are great, but if the power goes out, you want to build you a library. But you want to get education. And so that's what you're doing here today. You're getting education by watching videos and watching expert videos too of certain subjects. You can really immerse yourself. But here's the thing: books, video, courses, classes, doing all that stuff is great, but it doesn't, it's not better than practice and getting out and practicing what you have. Practicing with your fire steel, practicing batoning wood, practicing filtering your water, practicing those things, and it'll give you knowledge and field knowledge. There's nothing worse than getting yourself in a situation, pulling something out of a pack and trying to figure out how to use it and then using it wrong. So that's a big one. Fitness. And this really goes into self-defense. Fitness, getting yourself at least, you may not be able to go to the gym and do all kind of crazy workouts, but you can at least walk and get yourself out and get yourself active. But I highly recommend self-defense classes and martial arts, mixed martial arts. And if you're physically able, is to learn how to do that. It's one of those things with mindset. I took martial arts since I was like in middle school. And man, it really changed the way that I thought about things. I carried myself. I did whatever. I had more confidence. And so, being physically fit, though, is vital. And then, of course, last but not least is spiritual fitness. Guys, we're going into a very unknown time. And there's a lot of misinformation coming from both sides. Both sides. I mean, there is stuff being pumped. And one of the things about spiritual fitness is that it gives you wisdom and allows you to stay calm in the midst of a storm. And we've been saying that in church for years and years, but it does. It's the solid rock of truth, and it gives you above what's going on here, because this life is very temporary, and within the next 100 years, everybody watching this is going to be dead and gone. So check in on your spiritual fitness. It'll bring you peace, and it'll bring you a sense of calm, and then you get to the action, just like Noah did when he built that ark, because it doesn't mean you don't need to take action. All right, man, we really appreciate Robbie for being here. It's been a great, great segment. And Robbie at WheatonArms.com does aftermarket Glock parts, which we didn't even mention.
Yep.
The best flat face trigger on the market, but also check out his YouTube channel. Robbie is putting out a lot of great content. And again, a gunsmith for over 20 years.
Yep. And the stuff that we can't put on YouTube, we're doing our builder series on Patreon. So we've started with the AR-15. We're wrapping up with the Remington 700 Precision Rifle series now. That'll be up in the next week. And all of those are on our Patreon channel.
So check that out. We really appreciate Sarah Mack for being here and asking all the questions and monitoring things. Sportsman's Guide. Guys, it's a great resource, and you get $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch, SOOTCH, no zero. And it's just a great way. There's a ton of surplus stuff on there, which is great, a great buy.
Yep, and check out their Buyers Club as well. Their Buyers Club, you get additional savings as well as free shipping on almost all of their items.
Yeah, and we use Sportsman's Guide all the time. I'm telling you, there's a lot of great items on there. And also Scottsdale Mint for you guys looking to diversify, looking to pick up some precious metals. Scottsdale Mint, very established. Again, I personally know those guys, known them for years and years. And Josh over there is just awesome. And they do mint coins for over 20 countries in the world. So this isn't just a brokerage house. These guys actually make the coins right there. They mint them right there. And they're just really good, very trustworthy source.
Yeah, great resource.
Yeah. So be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic.